Mal says I should have you explain the fucking meme to me.
Oh, God. Fucking... No. Hello, welcome to So We're Watching That Right, a podcast where two lesbians bully each other for having the same taste in anime. I'm Becky, scientifically certified best girl.
And I'm Val, everyone's favorite harem protagonist.
We're back! The winter season is underway and already killing us, so here we are to talk about why for maybe 2 hours, God help us all.
We might have to split this up and not talk about the older stuff we've watched in the month since our last recording.
Yeah!
Until, another bonus episode, maybe. Anyway,
we're starting with the show that is, not killing us, actually. This might be the only reason we survive this season, which is Journal with Witch, which is already up to 2 episodes. And this show works because on its foundational level, it is this extremely powerful story about grief in the context of a family that is not very loving and has this beautiful kind of melancholy tone running through it that never gets in the way of the humor.
Yeah. Like a lot of things, humor is going to happen whether you are having a bad day or not, because life is multitudinous.
And grief is always tinged with humor, in my experience. Grieving makes everything that isn't grieving feel absurd.
Yeah.
And anybody of any kind of wit is going to turn that into humor. So, this show starts with this girl losing her parents and being adopted by her weird autism-coded aunt that she barely knows because the aunt is estranged from the family. And Asa, the girl, she's not grieving. She's clearly kind of in shock and she doesn't know how to grieve, which is a real thing. Grieving is something you kind of have to learn. And it's coming to this off of last season watching This Monster Wants to Eat Me, which is also about grief. In that, grief is an ocean that Hinako is drowning in constantly. That's the visual metaphor. In this, grief is a desert. And I think the contrast really accentuates how powerful that is as a metaphor for how Asa experiences her grief, this sense of just being dried out and in this kind of trackless wasteland. But the key moment is that at the funeral dinner, Makio and Asa are sat opposite one another, and a lot of the family, and it's all Makio's side of the family, none of Asa's father's side of the family have come to the funeral. So there's a lot of gossip kind of orbiting around about how, something was not right here. And Makio kind of stands up and calls everyone out about how gross they're being and offers Asa refuge at her place. And I wish more adults were like that. There's so much about this show that is going to hurt in the best possible way, I think.
Yeah, it's a really well-balanced show so far in terms of trying to, manage its tone and how awkward everything is going to be for people who have just met each other and started relying on one another in the way that they're kind of being forced to by circumstance. And also, just the comedic timing is really fucking funny, which I wasn't expecting.
It's so good. The second episode is one of Makio's friends learns that Makio has taken Asa in and invites herself round, kind of on the pretext of helping out, but basically to razz Makio a bit. And she addresses Makio as Makio-kun, which is great because Makio does have that kind of... She has a bit the same vibe as the protagonist from With You in the Rain 2 seasons ago, of being a loner writer who, has this, in some ways quite privileged life, but it's privileged with privacy and insularity. And Daigo comes into this space like a cannonball and brings a lot of laughter. And there's a moment where Asa realizes that she's never seen adults talk like friends before. Because, Makio and Daigo are old friends. I think they met in college or maybe even in high school. And Asa's like, oh, adults can be people. Just the picture that is being painted, and it's being painted from the borders in very slowly of what Makio and Asa's extended family is like. It's just agonizing.
Yeah, everyone has had a friend or known someone who didn't realize how bad their life was growing up and tried to tell what they thought was a funny story, and then everyone in the interaction except for them goes, "That's horrifying, are you okay?"
Yeah.
And it's that, but "That's very sad, are you doing okay?" is the reaction Asa gets most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, woof.
And it's good that she gets that reaction. Right?
Yes.
Like, there's so much room in this space for healing. And like a lot of healing, it's going to involve pouring some antiseptic on the wound that's going to sting like a bitch, which is definitely going to come up in episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm kind of dreading episode 3. But episode 2 is really sweet. And then Daigo says, you should go and talk to Person for help with money stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Person turns out to be Makio's ex. Maybe her ex-husband. I'm not sure if they were ever married, but they were clearly quite seriously together for a while.
Yeah, Kasamachi was his name.
Yes. And he has all sorts of feelings about this, because one of the sticking points in their relationship was Makio saying that she never wanted to have kids.
Mm-hmm.
But with that bit of distance, because they've been apart for a while, he's able to realize the extent to which she is, as he puts it, afraid of basically every human interaction. And, like...
Coming from that family, I understand that. Because, woof.
Yeah, like, also I feel extremely called out. Like...
No comment?
No, it's fair. Makio says she's worried because Asa sleeps a lot, and she wants sometimes to wake Asa up and check that she's okay. But she's worried about disturbing her and what the effects of that might be. And the ex says, yeah, you're like this about everything.
Yeah.
Which is true, and also I see myself in this woman.
Autism included.
Yeah, let's move on while I'm dying to In the Clear Moonlit Dusk, episode 1.
Which you forgot the premise of until I opened it up and you were like, oh, fuck, I forgot this one.
Look,
it was very funny.
Yoi is incredibly hot. I'm not gonna mince words about it.
Yeah.
I'm
And so
dying.
is her voice actress.
You fuck.
It's really funny.
God, you're a monster.
Yep, you're a monster.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, the introduction of the boy in this show is him, like, parkouring off the school roof for no apparent reason, and he just lands on her.
He was jumping off the emergency stairs.
Yeah. And then he looks deep in her eyes and goes, wow, you're really beautiful. And then pulls back and goes, wait, you're a guy? And she's not, and she gets mad. And one of her besties has, like, round anime glasses that can go, like, white opaque. But she can control them so they only go one white opaque at once, and I need that ability. It would be so good to be able to do that on command.
The glasses equivalent of winking.
God, so much happened this episode. Mm-hmm. That night, she, clearly feeling very bedraggled, goes to the convenience store late at night and intercedes in an incident where a drunkard is harassing the cashier. And then Kohaku, the boy, has to intervene as well because the drunkard gets violent. Drunkard gets threatening. Mm-hmm. And then the drunkard is about to swing on Kohaku, and Yoi steps in the way and...
deflects.
Karate blocks his strike.
Yeah.
And that gives Kohaku the dokies. Like, this girl is such a prince type that she can give straight boys the dokies, which is great. Mm-hmm. And then, like, they leave because things are getting chaotic and the shop manager is about to come out and actually kick the crap out of the drunk. Mm-hmm. And they end up on a swing set in the park having a bit of a heart-to-heart about, like, how she feels about the prince label, which she's not keen on. She doesn't want to be a prince. And he keeps, like, calling her beautiful and telling her that she should get to be a princess from time to time, and then he princess carries her, and she has very normal feelings about this and runs off. Mm-hmm. And then she arrives at school the next day just in a trail of blue roses.
Yep.
And every time she's on screen, the margins fill up with blue roses. And then he turns up at lunch, like, at the door of their classroom and shouts where everyone can hear that he wants to spend lunch with her. because he is not afraid or ashamed in any way, and he is not... Like, he doesn't know the rules of rom-com protagonists. He's just going to, like, make his advances, which is good, because otherwise we'd be in for a very long show of her pining.
Yeah, to be fair, I feel like at this point he's still under the impression that he is into her as, like, an aesthetic person, not as, like, a romantic interest.
True.
Because he's just like, surely he will get there.
Yeah.
But right now he's comporting himself with, like, wow, you're really fucking pretty. I want to watch you all the time.
Yes.
He's basically going, you're my Oshi.
There's a little bit of that, yeah. It is like, it's omoshiroi
that
he says about her a lot. Like, he does call her pretty and cute and beautiful, but mainly he says he's interested in her.
Mm-hmm.
And they go and have lunch together, and she gets out her bento, and she has curry in a flask, and she pours it on her rice, and he sees and is like, wow, curry? And she's like, shit, as if she's let the cat out of the bag about something. And it turns out that her family owns a curry restaurant, and she's had problems in the past because she's been, like, teased for being the curry prince, which I think is a brand name in Japan.
It sure sounds like one.
Yeah.
Either way, which is why she's just like...
She's not happy about that.
Yeah.
But he does seem, bless him, determined to pursue this in a way that gives her space. We'll see how that maybe changes, but, like, it's off to a good start.
Mm-hmm. Off to a stranger start is our next one, and not because of the source material or anything, just the context of anime. It's The Villainess is adored by the Prince of the Neighbouring Kingdom.
Yes.
Which is... I spent the entire episode going, it's really weird watching the Villainess revenge thing played completely straight.
Yeah.
Even though I know that there's probably troves of that, like, around, it's just that wasn't the stuff that got really big enough to animate first.
Yeah, especially, coming off a season that had May I Ask for One Final Thing, which is technically not the Isekai part of Villainous Revenge Isekai, even though it is an Isekai show, and The Dark History of the Reincarnated Villainess. And was there another Villainess show last season?
I don't think so. Let me go look at our giant fuck-off list.
But there certainly have been plenty of shows in this genre. In this weird niche subgenre. Why is this such a big thing at the moment? What is the market condition that is specifically producing a steady supply of what feels like it ought to be a really niche trope?
Pass the monster meat is what we were thinking about.
Yes, which is
Villainess adjacent.
It's villainous vibes for, like, the sweetest girl in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's, like, part of that lag between big waves of, like, light novels and manga production and the anime industry having the interest and the time to adapt them.
Yeah.
So I think we would probably need to go 5 or 6 years back.
Yeah.
To find kind of probably the tail end of that really hitting. But yeah, it's an interesting, weird niche.
Yeah. And this one, like you said, it's played straight in the sense that it is not doing this as a parody of otome game stories or of isekai stories or of the concept of a villainess revenge isekai. It just is the story. And it actually, in a way that produced, I think, quite compelling drama, it really, it had this character remember that she's an isekai and realize that the impending betrayal by her fiance in favor of the, like, otome game protagonist character is a bad end, that she is about to go for a bad end, and she contemplates running away and then decides to face it. And, like, it's just interesting as a choice. And it's interesting to see the thing not played for laughs. Although there are the character names.
There's some names.
The fucking prince is called Lactimer.
Yeah. Lady Tiara Rose Lapis Clementine is the main character. And then there's Prince Heart Knights Lapis Lazuli Lactimuth. And then she gets rescued by Prince Aquastein. Aquastein.
Prince Seahorse.
Prince Seahorse of Marine Forest, Someone was on something when they were writing this light novel.
Anyway, you can tell it's based on a otome game because the main character, not the main character, but the otome game main character, her name is Akari?
Yes.
She wants the reverse harem ending, which involves Prince Seahorse, and Prince Seahorse is not interested. It's sort of implied that this might be because there's a sequel that the actual main character hasn't played that's about Prince Seahorse.
Yeah, the thing is, like, she fell in love with Prince Seahorse's character design, but the game he was supposed to star in didn't come out until after her death, or wasn't going to come out until after she died.
Right, yeah.
So,
anyway, from that to The Invisible Man and His Soon-to-Be Wife, episode 1. Which, if this is his soon-to-be wife, then they're really going to rush this courtship. Because this first episode was like their first date, and she didn't even realise they were on their first date until halfway through.
mm-hmm.
So the conceit here is, he's an invisible man, she is blind. So the fact that she can't see him, it kind of normalises him for her. And she can always track where he is by, like, her other senses, because she's so used to navigating by her other senses.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of framed as a superpower, but it's like a superpower of familiarity. And they're really clever about how they use it, I think. It gives them this moment. They're in this restaurant on this date, sort of, and he has this kind of teasing demeanour where he seems very composed, and she's kind of feeling that she's a bit overmatched. And so he stands up and he takes her hand and he presses it to his chest, to be like, hey, feel my heart racing too, I'm also flustered. And there's this wide shot of the whole restaurant with everybody staring at them, because they're making a big scene in the middle of the restaurant, big romantic scene. But they can't really see him because he's invisible, you can only see his suit. And she can't see anybody staring at her. And it transforms the vibe of that scene from what that would normally be in a rom-com.
Yeah. Like, if any of the people around her were making comments about this, it would be more obvious to her, but it's definitely, like, it transforms it from, like, an awkward moment to, oh, they're kind of off in their own little world in a way that wouldn't work with any other premise.
Well, it's also, like, they have a special connection that means that they can do this and not be bothered by it. And, like, so there's the fantasy element here where he's an invisible man and there are various animal people. I'm not a furry, but oh no, Jirashi, the hot...
the
like,
butch bobcat?
That's right, she's a bobcat. We did find out what species she is. Like, she's a hot bobcat lady who Princess carries, the female protag, at one point in the first episode. I'm normal and have normal feelings about things.
Yep.
But, the animators and I guess, like, the original writers and so on have clearly put a lot of effort into portraying assistive tech and accommodations that the people who work for this detective agency make for this blind lady. And I really hope they're getting it right. Like, I didn't see anything that seemed obviously wrong, but I'm by no means an expert. I really hope they're getting it right, because it's... I want that kind of effort to pay off.
Yeah.
But the final bit of this episode is he's a detective, which is a great thing for an invisible man to be, except when a kid walks into him and, like,
spills ice cream
on him because he's invisible. But he gets into a fight as part of a case and gets a pretty bad set of scratches on his arm, and his wound is visible because as soon as the blood is out of the wound, it stops being covered by his invisibility power. So there's this deeply uncanny shot of just his wound moving. And then she tends to it, because they're clearly going to be an incredibly sweet couple.
Yeah.
Which is a perfect segue to You and I Are Polar Opposites, episode 1.
Yep.
So the conceit here is that Suzuki is very highly strung and over the top and kind of gyaru-y, and she is madly in love with the boy who sits next to her, Tani, who is very subdued and chill and doesn't express himself very much. And if this sounds like reverse Kashiwada and Ota, it's not entirely wide of the mark, except that the vibe here is much more... So these are high schoolers rather than middle schoolers, but also Suzuki's VA, we're watching the dub, and Suzuki's VA is just swinging for the fences on every word. Everything is completely overwrought and wild and perfectly matches the very scrunkly animation. Her character design has hair buns, and whenever she gets scrunkly, they're like bouncing off her head, which is a really good visual detail. And she's so highly strung, and she's so desperate to break the ice with this boy. And there's such a good supply of side characters who are clearly all going to have their own things, which we love that. But also the rom-com stuff. Like, this is 2 shows, one of which consists of Suzuki just screaming, and the other is 2 kids being in love and actually not, like, messing around.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a confession at the end of this episode. They both confess to each other very unambiguously at the end of this episode, and it's a product of both of them and their friends, like, being bold enough to just go for it.
And also communicating about things. Like, there's a moment when Suzuki is really stressed out because she overslept, and then when she got into class, she said something that made her sound like she was denying having any interest in Tani, and she was getting teased about it by her friends about some stuff. And after class, Tani heads off, and she's having a fucking panic attack about it, and finally goes, I really like that guy, and I feel like I fucked something up major. And her friend who was teasing her goes, I fucked up. I shouldn't have teased you about that. Fucking go.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's really good.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's just like, that's like chapter 1 or 2 of the manga that, like, this is the opening pitch.
Yeah.
And it's really strong for that.
Yeah. And then, like, the last moment of this episode is after she's confessed and he's expressed that he reciprocates. Like, she's crying happy tears, and he gets his handkerchief out and, like, is about to mop at her eyes, and then he remembers that one of the things she's been yelling about is mascara. And
she was rambling about her makeup.
Yeah. And one of the things she complained about is how much smudging it sucks. And he stops because he's remembered that, and she realizes that that means that he has been listening when she's been mouthing off.
Mm-hmm.
And it just... it's so sweet.
And on top of all of this, it has a really cute opening and a really cute ending. It's really just a good show so far.
Yeah. And then there is Hana-Kimi, which we have somehow already watched 3 episodes of.
Yeah, it started with 2 and it aired a second or a third.
Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
And, fucking hell. What do I want to say about this show? Like, they found a way to make straight BL, which is not actually an innovation here, but, like, that is what this is.
Yeah.
You know, the conceit of this girl pretends to be a boy and enrolls in boys' school because her crush goes to a boys' school. And, like, from that point on, it is built like a BL story, mostly. And, I mean, of course it is goofy, but it's fun how unscared of the gay it is. Like, Mizuki, the first time that she sees Sano in class, like, walks up to him and tells him she likes him.
Yep.
And everyone's like, gasp! And none of it is because she's gay. They're just surprised at how forward the American is, because she's a transfer student from America.
Mm-hmm. Everyone's just like, we don't care that you're gay, it's just kind of weird to do that on your first day. What the fuck? Which, true.
I mean, yeah, but also bold.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like, her secret doesn't last long. Like, Sano figures it out, and also the school doctor figures it out. And the school doctor explains his ability to figure it out by saying, like, basically saying he knows she's a girl because he's gay.
Yes, but he still shows up on the couch full of, like, ostensibly interested in her characters in the opening.
Yes.
So what the fuck is up with that?
I don't know. Anyway, also there is an absolute, well, I'd say puppy dog, but he's specifically identified as a lion cub who appoints himself Mizuki's best friend and then falls in love with her without realizing that she's a girl, and so is like, oh, am I having a gay awakening?
And then helps her get through some shit and goes, fuck it, if I'm gay for this, whatever.
Yeah, basically. It's real good. One of the recurring bits is that there is a creepy guy who goes around, like, photographing the pretty boys in school as if he's creep-shotting girls. And so, like, Mizuki is his new target, and he keeps being creepy about her. And it's like, oh, this is where Hata in Setokai Yakuindomo comes from.
Yeah, basically. Same lineage.
You know, Hata is a send-up of that. And there is an actual plot going on here, because Sano, like... Mizuki fell in love with Sano because she saw him on the telly competing in middle school high jump.
I don't think she saw... I guess she did see him in middle school or on TV.
Like, the shot that we see, the flashback of her, like, falling in love with him is her watching TV and it's broadcasting middle school high jump.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. I mean, she is on holiday in Japan with her aunt or something at the time, so it's not like it's in America. Grandma, sorry, yeah. It's not like she's in America watching Japanese middle schoolers high jump. But
so weird.
And like Japanese school sports are like
televised,
really intense in that way.
Yeah.
But still, that's a hell of a way to fall in love with someone.
Yeah.
And she's in love with the way he high jumps. And she gets to school and she finds out that he's quit high jump because he hates the pressure. And he's being pestered by his childhood friend, Rika, who can't go to their school because it's a boys' school, but she keeps showing up at the school gates. He's being pestered by her because she thinks he's like destined to be a high jumper and he must get back into high jump. And this causes all sorts of fighting between Sano and Rika, and then between Mizuki and Sano, because Mizuki also wants Sano to get back into high jumping, but not to compete at it just because it's clear that he loves it. That is honestly maybe the most romcom bullshit thing in this show so far.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
which is a pretty high bar.
Yes! And then, like, while the fight between Mizuki and Sano is playing out, at one point Mizuki gets a parcel from home, and some of her friends see her bringing it into the dorm, and they all, like, invade her room to, like, open it so that they can share in whatever snacks she's been sent. And this is all fine until they find in there a parcel from her big brother, and they open it, and it is a big frilly dress. Like, super femme frilly dress.
Mm-hmm.
And she's sort of just able to laugh it off as a prank.
Yeah.
But also, I know a Chekhov's gun when I see one.
No, that's a dress.
A dress can be a weapon.
Oh, I'm aware. Anyway, speaking of rom-com bullshit.
Speaking of rom-com bullshit. You can't be in a rom-com with your childhood friends, episodes 1 and 2, which is a deeply misleading title.
Everyone lives in the state of denial, which is a place you can live anywhere, even if you're in Japan.
Uh-huh. This boy wakes up at the start of the first episode, and his window is wide open, and he immediately yells at someone for leaving his window open after climbing in through it, and then discovers that she is, in fact, in his bed under the covers. And the conceit here is that this idiot boy, Au, is more oblivious than Aki from Imouza, and Shio, this first of the childhood friends, is throwing herself at him even harder than Iroha. Like, she is basically sexually harassing him, actually, if we really wanted to be technical about what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she is, it's full grab his arm and smush it into her boobs, climb into his bed while he's asleep.
Pull him over and plant his hand on her boob.
That's right, she does set up a, fall over on top of me boob grab moment.
Yep.
And then the other childhood friend, the thing here is this guy's got 2 childhood friends, and he loves childhood friend rom-coms, and he's in love with both of his childhood friends, and he thinks that they both hate him, and that they would see him as a creep if he confessed to either of them, and also if he confessed to one of them, the other would explode.
That one might be right.
Yes. I mean, Akari is going to explode regardless, because she's the tsundere.
Yep.
And at school the next day, Akari has a drink, and he has the same drink, and they have some sort of nonsense tsundere row about this, during which the drinks get swapped, and Akari drinks from his bottle, and then realizes it's an indirect kiss, and then tsunderily pretends to not be bothered by indirect kisses because she's kissed lots of boys, and starts teasing him about having never kissed anyone, so he insists that he's kissed a bunch of girls, and she says, okay, prove it, kiss me now. And they go off to do this somewhere slightly less prominent than in the middle of class, and both of them freeze up about it because neither of them has actually ever kissed anybody.
And he admits defeat on this one.
He does admit defeat on that one.
And then they get caught.
Then they get caught, and then they go back to the classroom, and Shio, the first of the 2 girls, wants to copy his maths homework, and in order to do so, she climbs into his lap at his desk, and then she starts grinding on him. And he is, desperately trying to hold it together through a situation which no teen boy with any kind of sex drive at all would have a good result here. And then Akari gets jealous and demands that Shio make room for her in his lap as well, and they're both grinding on him, which...
Yep.
There are 4 girls in the OP to this series.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't met 2 of them yet. I feel like it's going to be another series where I'm just like desperately waiting for the other 2 to show up.
Yeah, because
they really look like problems.
One is purple and one is a butch, so...
Shut up. Die.
Fucking come kill me yourself, bitch.
I have to be careful how we joke about that. I might get denied a visa.
Oh, no! You can cut that.
Anyway, the second episode starts with Ayu on a crowded bus, finding that Shio is standing right behind him, and she uses a jolt from the bus going around a corner or whatever to, like, cling on to him, and then she reaches up and starts stroking his ears, and he has sensitive ears, and in order to, like, get her to stop doing that, he grabs her and presses her to his chest for a bit, and then when he lets her go, she is super red in the face, so he immediately stops the bus and gets them both off. Sorry, phrasing. Make sure they both disembark.
They leave the bus.
And what he says to her is, I know exactly how you feel. And she goes even redder, but what he meant was, I remember how you always used to get really badly travel sick.
Yo.
Because, again, idiot.
And also because she was giving him shit earlier for the same...
True, yes. She will not actually commit. Then they're at school and they play the wildest game of Shiratori, which at one point Akari does reach for West Virginia as her words.
Yeah, don't let the subs lie to you. The subs are localizing the best they can, but...
West Virginia!
Yep. Because she's trying to get AU to say her name because Shio got her name said earlier.
Like, at one point, AU says Shio, which, apart from being Shio's name, also is just like salt.
Yep.
And like Akari gets super jealous over that. But the reason they're stuck inside at school is because it's raining. And so they have to go home in the rain, and AU stumbles across Akari changing at the shrine because she's gotten soaked. And she's just like halfway through taking her tights off while standing on the front steps of a shrine. And when she spots him, she falls over in surprise, and he gets a flash of her panties. Again, yes, it is the second time. And then he offers to let her share his umbrella, and they do all the classic Ayagasa shenanigans of like walking home under the same umbrella and like fighting over it and touching hands and stuff. And then that evening, Shio, who is clearly some sort of monkey, has bought a bunch of snacks and wants to go round to one of her friends' houses to like share them because she's bought too many for herself. And she looks out the window and Ayu's light is off. So instead she climbs over to the house on the other side, which is Akari's, and she climbs through Akari's window. Except that Akari is lying on her bed talking to her plushie with her earphones in. So she doesn't hear Shio when Shio says hello, and she continues kind of monologuing about Ayu and whether there could ever be anything between them and so on. And Shio gets to realise that Akari is into Ayu, and Akari tries to deny it because, of course, she's a tsundere. And then, in an attempt to distract her, Akari gets her phone to show her a cute video, but then shows her search history, and it's all like childhood friend romance advice stuff. And then she's trying to downplay that, and she goes to her closet and opens it, and somehow a whole bunch of photos of Ayu and like a photo album and stuff fall out. And also, like, Shio kind of pervs on Akari a bit, and I have a suggestion.
I have a suggestion as well, and it stares at the colors they use for the logo. The colors they use for the logo are blue, red, purple, and yellow, which I guess connect to each of the heroines, which also is true of Girlfriend, where Polly is the end game. So, hey, we have suggestions.
The suggestions will continue until dating improves.
Not in this fucking series.
Not in this fucking series. This is the one that's like 200 chapters, right?
It's 120 so far.
That's so many for these dinguses. Speaking of dinguses, there is Tune Into the Midnight Heart.
Yeah, there is.
The first note I took on this show is, oh my god, I hate this guy so much, in all caps. Because we must destroy Rich Boys from orbit. He's terrible.
So bad, it's great. This one's at 100 chapters.
Fuck me running. Imagine wanting to read 100 chapters of this idiot.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah, I know. So he is trying to get in touch with a girl that he listened to on the, like, pirate radio, basically.
Mm-hmm.
She would broadcast late at night, and he was one of her, like, dedicated listeners. And he's trying to find her. And the whole setup is he's clearly in love with her. But his account of what he is doing is, at one point, he confessed to her while listening to one of her broadcasts, or while, I think they were, like, on call together?
Yeah, I think there was, like, a call-in feature on whatever platform they were using. Because it was, like, a radio app.
Yeah.
And he was, like, the only listener that she had consistently, so she could, like... If you're watching, like, a stream... and you know someone is watching.
Yeah.
It's something like that.
He confessed to her and she immediately stopped broadcasting. So he thinks that's his fault. But also, he thinks she's got a recording of him confessing, which he doesn't want coming to light because he is already like a CEO brat. So he thinks he's on a quest to find and eliminate this recording. And so he goes to this school, which he's worked out by like creepy levels of detective work must be the school that she's going to.
Yeah, he rain bolted it a little.
That's right, because the school's only just become co-ed.
Mm-hmm.
So he couldn't even apply for this school. He had to apply for the school that he'd figured out was about to merge with it so that it would become co-ed. And he identified the broadcasting club as the likely place where Apollo will be.
Mm-hmm.
And there are 4 girls in the broadcasting club, all of whom are people who want to do pro voice work. Like, one wants to be a radio announcer, one wants to be a VTuber, one wants to be a singer, one wants to be a voice actress. And they keep flubbing their lines.
Yeah,
it's a recurring bit of them flubbing lines when they're trying to do their thing.
Yeah, they're all not doing practice very well.
Yes.
And they all have weak points that they are failing to address on their own.
Yes. And I have to admit, I didn't entirely track what was going on in the final bit of this episode, but it seemed to be that, like, I think he explained that he was looking for Apollo, because he did ask them if any of them was Apollo, right?
Yeah, he asked if they're Apollo. And then in the final stretch of the episode, they lock him out of the broadcasting room, and Apollo goes live, like, on the app, and it's audio from inside the broadcasting room.
Yes. The impression I got was that, like, all 4 of them are talking on the broadcast.
Yeah, I think that particular framing is going to be, she's going to have a broadcast later chronologically that is being flashed forward to, that is getting overlaid back over this part of the episode, where she's just like, I didn't want to see you, whatever. She has stuff to say to him, but doesn't want to be uncovered yet, and that's why I think it's a stylistic thing.
Yeah. Anyway, all of that's happening over the school PA.
Yep.
He's so obnoxious.
Mm-hmm. And all of them have traits that could be Apollo, but, you know, it's been 3 years.
He's convinced that he perfectly remembers her voice, of course.
He is.
Because he's 99% perfect, and he just needs the right girl to help him get to 100% perfect.
Yep.
Little shit.
Speaking of little shit.
There is no little shit in this show.
Oh, there are little shits in this show.
Yoki is a good boy.
He's a good boy. There are characters that are little shits in this show. We just haven't met them yet.
Okay.
I would know. I have read the manga.
Fair enough.
A bit, so.
There was a cute girl in the hero's party, so I tried confessing to her, episode 1.
Yep.
In which we are introduced to Yoki, who is, like, the first mid-boss in the final dungeon of the Demon King's lair.
Yeah, he got reincarnated from our world into this setting as a demon and was powerful enough because of his cheat skills that he got along that path that he got recruited by the Demon King to guard his castle.
There was a thing about him, like, if he defeated the Demon King, which he could do, he would have to become the Demon King, right?
Yeah. And he's not really...
He doesn't want that.
Yeah, he's only allowed to leave the castle for, you know, raiding human villages and such, and he doesn't like doing that because he used to be human himself.
Yes. He does a really good line in Chuny Rants, and you're like, oh, well, he's a demon. Of course he can do Chuny Rants. But no, he was like that before he got Isekai.
Yup.
It's a really good detail.
It's really good. And also, he keeps beating the hero's party, then having his underlings escort them out to the nearest village, and they keep going back, and he's just like, I don't want to do this, but the Demon King is going to kill me if I don't kill them. So
yes,
let's just deal with this. And goes, hey, you're not going to beat me, but if you leave your healer here, I'll let you through. And he gets them to agree to that. And then
the thing we ought to say is he fell in love with the healer at first sight.
Yeah.
And like the reason that he keeps sparing this group of heroes is because he doesn't want to kill the healer.
And he gets a moment alone with her and goes, I fell in love with you at first sight. Please go out with me. And she's just like, no. And then he just gets depressed.
Yeah. But, like, to his credit, it's not a creepy thing. Like, obviously, when he says the healer stays here and the rest of you can go kill the Demon King, they rightly perceive that as creepy.
Mm-hmm.
But he does a pretty good job of, like, de-escalating from that and being like, hey, I'm not here to coerce you in any way. I just want the opportunity to talk to you and get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
And he does let her go. Or rather, he's too depressed to stop her leaving.
Yeah.
But the heroes then succeed at killing the Demon King and are the big heroes of the kingdom. And he makes his way to the capital because now the Demon King's not around to kill him for leaving. And he becomes an adventurer and he's rising through the ranks very quickly. And Cecilia figures out that he's come to town. And basically, he all but gets adopted into her household because she wants to keep him out of the political situation that's developing in the wake of the war against the Demon King.
Yeah, because it's kind of like the adventuring guild system was set up to gather adventurers with enough power to help tackle the Demon King and his minions and the entire army and all that. But now that the Demon King's done, they're trying to jockey for power using adventurers, and she wants him to not get wrapped up in that because he might get outed.
Yes. And her mom wants him to marry Cecilia so that she doesn't have to marry any of the arranged marriage proposals that she's got.
Or at least tempt him with that before.
So, I mean, yeah, I think the mom understands what genre of show she's in.
I do too.
Is the vibe I got.
But at first she is definitely well, I like you and you're not going to do anything stupid. Let's keep you around.
Yes.
Relative to the rest of the team.
Yeah. It's another show, a bit like Polar Opposites, where it's a very silly premise, but it works because in terms of the, emotional content, it's very straightforward, and it's about characters who are able to be straightforward with one another, and who start out from a place of straightforwardness, which seems to be a bit of a trend, I think, in rom-coms. I just feel like we're getting more and more shows where there is good communication.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we just finished Star Brighter Than the Sun, which is the exact opposite of that.
And we're also still watching Kimi no Todoke, which has a season 3 relatively recently that isn't that.
True, but Kimi no Todoke had set a very clear template.
Yeah.
Well in advance. Speaking of very clear templates.
Yep.
Isekai Office Worker, Episode 1.
Which we need to read the whole fucking title for. Hold on.
You can read the full title for it if you want.
Isekai Office Worker, the other world's books depend on the bean counter.
Yeah, so he's a regular salaryman, and he gets caught up in an Isekai summoning of a schoolgirl because he tries to help her not get Isekai summoned. And they don't know what to do with him in the kingdom that he's summoned to, and he is too, alienated and capitalism ground down that he asks for work. And so they set him to working in the government accounting department because that's what he does. And he basically does austerity.
Yep.
He's so much I'm going to get to the bottom of where all this money is going and stop people from just rubber stamping all the finance requests and shit.
Yeah, it's like fucking Kazuya from Realist Hero turned up to 11.
Yes. And to be fair, there is a lot of casual corruption going on in the government of people are just borrowing from various insurance funds and emergency funds to pay for petty stuff. But Kondo immediately gets addicted to stamina potions because they enable him to keep overworking without dying, and then he dies of drinking too many stamina potions, which is the into the BL part of the show that's barely showed up at all, except in Bishy Sparkles for one particular character who's clearly going to be the boy.
Mm-hmm.
There is a really cool scene where the heroine, Yua, who's the person who's actually summoned, and it has been like elevated to this role of being like the classic isekai heroine. She asks to speak to him, and he tries to persuade her to be more skeptical of the isekai premise, which does involve a whole bunch of like potentially Yuna from FF10 stuff, to be fair. Like there is a little bit of that vibe. But she is young. She's a teenager. She's a high schooler. And she gets mad at him for suggesting that these beautiful men that she's now surrounded with might be like being dishonest with her, and that she should withhold her help from this imperiled population. I think that dynamic is the thing that really sparkles for me here, more than anything else. And we'll see if it does anything with it. But I had forgotten what BL is like. Once upon a time, I watched quite a lot of BL because I was friends with a bunch of what we would now call fujoshis. I think probably fujoshi was in circulation in Japan as a term at the time. I don't think I ever heard it. We just called them fangirls. And so, yeah, this is what it's like. There's a lot of shots of very pretty boys sparkling. Anyway, there is one show that is ongoing from last season that we're watching, which is Gnosia. And we have a few episodes of that to cover because there's a few from the end of last season that we haven't talked about yet, including one in which Yuri is a girl, which more of that, please. I realize I'm weak, but shut up.
The worst part is that it was, in a timeline or in a loop that she was trying to chase Jonas with it. So,
yeah. Give me the Femme Yuri Setsu episode. At one point, there was a giant mold attack where maybe Comet's slime mold went out of control.
Yeah, that was Comet's slime mold because she got frozen and the mold in that loop decided to go apeshit about it.
Yes. We actually get like the emergence of the overarching plot here, which is this background character, Manan, who hangs over SQ and Remnan. Like she's got important roles in both their backstories. And also has some connection to Kukurushka and Jonas.
I don't know if I'd call it an overarching plot, but definitely like a multi-character nexus.
Yeah, it's clearly one of the things that Yuri is going to have to deal with in order to get out of the loop. And we get some breakthroughs on that. We get an episode where the protagonist, the viewpoint character, is Gina rather than Yuri. Or at least, like, there's a bunch of stuff that's from her perspective rather than from Yuri's. There is a very, very funny moment where this was just like a passing thing, but I thought it was perfect. It's like Yuriko gets frozen, the Shrine Maiden character who's really pompous, and Yuri's first thought is she talked too much, which, God, if that isn't true.
Yeah.
There's an episode where Setsu collapses, like right at the start of the loop, and Yuri manages basically to arrange for her to have a day off and takes her on a date. So he takes them on a date. Setsu plenty of opportunities to insist that they are not a woman. At one point, they go fishing in the ship's water tank and they fish up Otome, the uplifted dolphin. It's very good. Like, it's a really cute date. And then we finished up on Saturday's episode with Yuri figuring out that they need to confront Yuriko about being Manan or being connected to Manan somehow. And that's basically where it ended.
Well, that's an hour 6.
And we just hit the brief mentions, which are not very brief because it's all new shows. This show opens with this twink named Dota fleeing through the forest after stealing a coffin. And he is pursued by fairies, which are giant, horrible frog monsters.
Yep.
And if that sounds goofy, that is not the tone for this hour-long
debut, yeah.
First episode. Like, it's a pretty serious, dark show about a penal legion. And it takes its darkness fairly seriously, I think. It doesn't feel gratuitous. It's not Game of Thrones stuff. And we probably wouldn't... Like, that was enough that we didn't keep watching Clever Test after the hour-long first episode. We probably would have dropped this, except that Teorita, the goddess that Xylo Forbarts, the protagonist, makes a pact with, like, at the climax of this first episode, is an incredible gremlin. Like, she's really determined to get head pats. Everything she does for head pats. Which would be ridiculous, but somehow works when she is a walking super weapon.
Yeah, the goddess of swords that also just is like a 3-foot nothing fucking blonde
brat.
Blonde brat with who demands head pats.
Yeah. It's a good job she's the goddess of swords because this boy uses swords like fire and forget missiles.
Yep.
He doesn't fight with swords. He just throws swords.
I think he swung a sword that was not then thrown once.
Yeah.
The entire episode.
It's got to be said, though, like, visually, the animation, the art quality is astonishing. It looks great. This show looks amazing. Every shot.
Unfortunately, I have a different opinion, which is the visual style reminds me too much of Mushoku Tensei. For reasons I cannot identify, that it just puts me off. But yeah.
It has amazing monster designs. The, like, Demon Lord monster is wild!
Mm-hmm.
And there's a hot evil Knight Captain, but we're moving on because this is brief mentions to Roll Over and Die, episode 1, in which a girl gets sold into slavery after being, like, anointed part of the hero's party, but she has no skills and no stats because her only skill is this weird reversal thing that fixes her stats at 0. And there's this one guy in the hero's party who hates her from the get-go and eventually sells her into slavery to get rid of her and tells the rest of the party that she just ran off or went home. And so this poor girl, like, she isn't even useful as a slave. So the slave trader that she's been sold to is going to kill her, is going to just feed her to some ghouls for his amusement. But to taunt her, he makes available to her this cursed sword that will kill her if she touches it. Except that her reversal skill, it turns out, reverses all magical effects on her, so the curse instead makes her really strong.
Yeah, the curse is supposed to melt you, but instead it regenerates her.
Yes. And she rescues another slave whose name, unfortunately, is Milk It.
Yep, we won't milk that joke.
We will.
We won't.
Let's not pretend otherwise.
I'm better than that.
You are not.
I am. I promise you.
There's going to come a time where it's going to be really funny for you to say it, and you'll say it.
I promise I won't.
Okay, I'll hold you to that.
Okay, do you want to admit that I'm better than you?
Babe.
Yeah?
Roll over and die.
No. You told me not to.
I'm allowed to assign you, like, multiple conflicting tasks.
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm allowed to be right when I'm not allowed to be right.
Shut up. Anyway, they escape and they go to join the Adventurers Guild, and the Adventurers Guild people are horrible and tell them they'd be better off going into sex work, except one guy who decides to prank them by sending them off after, like, a D rank job when they are, like
a B rank job.
Was it B? I thought it was D. Anyway, it doesn't matter, like a high rank job.
Yeah.
Which they are clearly going to ace and come back, and everybody's like, you're supposed to be dead, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Then there is Holy Grail of Eris, episode 1, which is another... I don't think this one is an isekai, is it?
Nope.
This is just a fantasy world and a jilted princess getting revenge story. Although the thing she's getting revenge for is losing her fiancé, and her fiancé's name is Neil Bronson, which is not... Like, that's... You can't be a fiancé called Neil Bronson. That's not a thing. Anyway, the vengeful spirit of Scarlet Elf Endymion from May I Ask is here to cause women's wrongs and make sure that Constance gets justice. And the girl who's stealing Constance's fiancé and the fiancé, or ex-fiancé now, get, like, sentenced to dance in red-hot shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of horrifying and, like, passes almost completely under the radar in the climax of the episode.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Also a lot is Shiboyugi playing death games to put food on the table, episode 1, which... So this is a death game anime. It's... Here are a bunch of girls, they're locked in a mansion full of traps and they have to try to get out. And basically this episode just does typical death game stuff, but wildly aesthetic in its presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, incredible mix of visual styles and really beautiful kind of elegiac atmosphere. Very sad, very slow, very mournful.
It's
horrifically violent.
Yeah. Like, it's also just like the opening... Like, we were sitting there, like, wondering if we clicked on the wrong video.
Yeah.
Because for, like, a minute and a half, it's just, like, some nice boat fucking video. Like, genuinely, I was just like, am I getting school dazed right now? What is happening?
Yeah. And, like, they can cut their own limbs off to solve puzzles because they've been given some sort of treatment that turns their blood to cotton fluff.
Mm-hmm.
And their limbs will be reattached at the end of the game. But when they get to the final room, there are 4 of them left, and only 2 have died, and there's 3 signs on the wall with crossed out human shapes,
mm-hmm.
and only 2 of them are crossed out, so they just have to kill one of the 3 to get out. And then Que Sera Sera plays.
Yep.
Which is a wild piece of music to play over the end of a death game. And then Yuki, our heroine, gets home and declares her intent, having now, I think she survived like 28 Death Games now. She is on a project to survive 99 of the things, for which I'm sure there'll be some horrific reason.
It's her kink, don't shame her. This is the only way she can get off.
Why must you do this to my posts?
Because you haven't managed to stop me yet.
How appropriate that we're about to start talking about a Misanthrope teaches a class for Demihumans. You Demihuman scoundrel, you.
That's me.
Anyway, this is a show about girls who are problems.
Yep.
And the titular Misanthrope who goes to teach at a school for Demihumans to learn how to be humans. And like at one point he's like, I'm glad that Demihumans exist because I hate humans. To a room of girls who all aspire to be human.
Mm-hmm.
There are going to be all sorts of various shenanigans with the cast of girls. All I want to note for now is my deep concerns about the pedagogical strategies employed at this school. Because one part of the curriculum is them learning how to interact with one another like humans do. And the way this is assessed is that in the school like entrance lobby, there is this table and it's covered in little bottles, one for each student, and any time that a student feels that another student has done something human for them and kind and so on, they can go and put a vote in one of the bottles, and that's their grades for that component of the course. And that is just horrifying. There would be so much bullying and abuse of that system.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing written by someone who has not been in a school in a long time.
Yeah.
You know, the average politician.
Or it might be that there's going to be a point where Ray says, look, this is not teaching kids to be human, these kids to be human, it's teaching kids to be better than human, which I think that would redeem it, that would make it interesting. But at the moment, I'm just like,
We will see. There are 2 volumes of this. There was only 1 for a bit, but if we drop it, I might go see how it ends.
Yeah.
Light novel wise.
Anyway, I watched the first episode of Kai-chan Isn't Scary, which is really good at being what it is, which is a stark autism analogy. Like, this is a 5-year-old girl, I think, like kindergartner. She can see ghosts, and she's trying to protect all the kids in the kindergarten from ghosts. But she's learned that if she says there are ghosts, people laugh at her. So whenever she spots that there's a ghost, she just, like, blocks other kids from playing with whatever the ghost has got into. And so everybody thinks she's just really cantankerous and capricious. And it's like, oof. Because it puts all the pieces in place to make that a perfect analogy. I'm not going to keep watching it because we're watching too many things. But I do want to see, at the end of this season, a compilation of all her shots where she beats a ghost to death. Because even just in the first episode, there are 3 kill shots and they're all great. She fucking chops a ghost that was haunting a book's head in half with a book. Then there is Reincarnated as a Dragon's Egg, episode 1, which is So I'm a Spider, So What, but for a dragon. And like the first episode was a joy because he keeps getting sassed by the tutorial voice and it negs him into picking the harder evolution route when he hits his first like evolution point. Sneakily, he has a Son of the Dragon King title, which is...
Yeah.
At some point, he's going to notice that and be concerned, which will be fun. I have a note about the music. I don't really remember what I was noting down about the music. I do remember us having multiple reactions to it.
It scored like an FMV game from the Knots.
Right,
It's got some really crazy music.
Yes.
It's good, but it's just like really out of pocket sometimes.
Yes. But also, I mean, this is the show where he starts out as an egg with the like monster type egg and has to level up enough to hatch by killing things while he's an egg, which is a whole other version of like real life experience tests for trans people. But it takes him until like level 2 to gain the ability to steer where he rolls.
Yeah, he levels up rolling by rolling off a fucking cliff.
It's so harsh.
Yeah. As much as this is So I'm a Spider, So What, it is also kind of, with the system voice having a personality, this is also the time I got reincarnated as a slime, which is also good, but it's definitely like the same vein. It's not going to be something to complain about. If you like that, you might enjoy this, but it's a dragon. He looks like a Digimon right now.
He's so cute. He's so cute. Big swerve. Does it count if you lose your virginity to a robot? Episode 1. 10-minute episodes of porn.
5-minute episodes.
Is it only 5?
Yes.
Okay. This woman came home from her job at an AI company where she was worrying that AI was going to make her obsolete, and her apartment is a sty, and she decides she's going to order a robot maid. And then the next day she comes home and there's a big package outside her door, and she manages to get it into her apartment and apparently doesn't open it herself. And she wakes up the next morning, and instead of ordering a maid, she has somehow ordered a sex bot.
Mm-hmm.
And the sex bot tells her she has to finger her to register her ownership, and she flinches, and the robot goes, you're a bottom then.
Yep.
And then spends the entire day working her over.
Yeah, this is, standard queer experience. You express any hesitation, you're labeled a bottom. That's how it goes.
Anyway, very much like what it said on the tin, which is also true of A Day in the Life of a Part-Time Torturer.
Yep.
Which is exactly what it says on the tin. It's a well-executed workplace comedy with a just terrible choice of subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can make this funny. Is it possible to do jokes about torture? Yes. Some great progressive comedy about the ideology of torture, the ideological ideas of torture, critique of torture in various regimes, and so on. This ain't it.
Yeah, this is, that friend that you had in high school who was just oh, they're going to torture people to get information about Osama bin Laden or whatever, who really believes torture works. That's the worldview that this is coming from,
yes.
And it is not a funny worldview.
Yeah, and you can tell they're squeamish about it as well, because there is a long kind of interlude at one point that's hey, it's fine, because we only torture bad guys. And then, the jokes are when each character is introduced, it pops up a hex graph of their torture skills, like a fucking video game.
Mm-hmm.
And they go to a shop for torture implements, and the shopkeeper is zany. And the shopkeeper is zany and it's very funny, but it's still a torture shop.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good. Right, tell me about these other shows.
All right, so I was going to watch more, but I got through 6 shows out of the 10 that I was running solo. So, you'll take what I give you. Anyway, the first one I gave a shot was A Gentle Noble's Vacation Recommendation, which was one of those ones where we were just this is technically Isekai, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be up our alley. You wanted me to check it out and see whether the characters in the visual being guys made it gay. It is really Fujo bait,
right. But
I don't think it's going to be actually gay. And it's also not isekai in a way that is interesting enough for me to keep up past episode 1.
Fair.
Because it's just I went from one fantasy world where I'm a duke to another fantasy world where I don't recognize the setting. And I'm going to hire this adventurer, and he's going to accompany me on things, and I'm going to get possessive of him when someone starts talking shit about him.
Right.
I'm also going to head pat Stud, the receptionist at the Adventurers Guild. Yes, his name is Stud. Like I said, Fujo bait, not actually gay, I don't think.
Yeah.
I'm not going to care if it is, because this is still not interesting to me.
Yeah.
In a different corner of technically in my wheelhouse, but not in a normal way, is Noble Reincarnation, Born Blessed, Soul Obtain Ultimate Power, which is a reincarnation anime, but not an isekai show. The main character basically wakes up and realizes that he's been reincarnated. It's unclear if it's the same setting as he's been in, or if he was transported to a new one on his death, but he's basically blessed with the ability that all of his underlings give his stats buffs. So since he's the king's son, or the emperor's son, the 13th prince, he's given rule over a fiefdom that is trained in water magic. So he ends up having S-rank water magic or SS rank water magic or whatever. And the entire thing is basically at 6, he is doing his best to avoid getting caught up in a bunch of schemes that his family is running while trying to help the people he rules over out in the best way that he can. His brother, the crown prince, basically gives him a cursed sword that if you don't master it, it just kills you. And the only reason that he's able to do anything with it is because of his mastery of water magic. He ends up aiming to embody the ideal of noblesse oblige, because he's just I'm a noble, I have power, I can help people, this is what I should be doing. One of his maids, his personal maid, is just like, I'm gonna have to quit because there was a massive flood in this region that I came from, and my family is basically telling me to go sell myself in sex work so that I can help my family make money.
Jeez.
And he's just like, okay, no, I'm going to hire your mother to lock the back door of the mansion for like 20 times the normal pay for whatever job. And she's just like, I've never heard of this position before. And he's just like, hey, there's also a house that you're going to move into. And also, I'm going to sell a thing that the emperor gave me so that I can buy up the region that just suffered this flood so no one else can like start moving in and scamming people who are in dire straits right now. And it's a lot more like serious than some of the other ways that this could be taken. But like, it is interesting to see like an attempt to, you know, there was that show last time, I'm a Reincarnator, my dad said something, or my mom's a spirit.
Yeah.
Where it was just like, okay, they're overpowered, but they have to deal with politics, and the politics were shitty before we even got to them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that with less happy, because it's really focused on him doing his best to help out, but some bad shit's going down. On the other side of things, we have Easygoing Territory Defense by the Optimistic Lord, which has a really cute opening that I liked. This boy becomes conscious at 2 years old and is like, I want to study the culture and everything to his dad, and then spends 3 years being taught and training with swords and stuff. And then also in the process, he rescues someone from being sold into slavery while he's out trying to escape, you know, the endless studying and training, and basically recruits him as his retainer. And when he finally hits age 8, which is when you get your magic assessed, he gets branded with like production magic, which they explain as, you can already make all these things by hand. Why would you want magic for it? And that's why we hate production magic. I wanted you to be able to throw fireballs. And he basically gets exiled to, you know, this town that hasn't been developed fully. And he was supposed to go basically alone, but his tutor, his sword instructor, and his personal maid are all like, wow, look at that. We're all quitting at the same time. Anyway, we're joining you now. And because he's been like a little prodigy, just kind of running around being sociable in his hometown, basically the entire town sees him off.
I thought you were going to say the entire town comes with him.
I'm sure they would want to. But yeah, it's just like, he's forced to leave, and they're all like, what the hell is going on? You just turned 8. Shouldn't you be like working? Whatever. And then they send him off, and that's where the episode ends. Which is like, it's chill. It's probably not going to be anything super interesting. I don't know if I'll stick with it all the way, but it's just like, this is lighthearted, and that's nice after Noble Reincarnation was kind of like somber in a lot of ways. Then I hit Jack of All Trades, Party of None, which is the main character gets kicked from the hero's party because he basically got forced into being a support caster after the setting invented the standardized party formation, and he was a second attacker, which they didn't need. So he got shoved into the support role, which he wasn't as good at. Except the enchanter that the rest of his party were basically judging him against shows up later in the first episode and goes, yeah, no, that's really weird because you're pretty fucking good at, like, I really respect you as an enchanter, and they're probably going to suffer for you having left. But yeah, he's running solo now. He ends up saving the sister of the enchanter in question. It's a little shoelace fantasy, which is a term I still really like, which is just like someone gets kicked from a party and they go, what the hell? Why is everything worse now? I fired the guy who used to tie my shoelaces. Like, what? That's how taken care of we were. But yeah, we will see whether it goes anywhere particularly interesting or if it's just another power fantasy, but it's all right for the first couple of episodes. They've introduced a new party that he's like tutoring. They're doing like a dungeon dive with a guild, and he's helping out. Then there's Scum of the Brave, which is by the same author as Sentenced to be a Hero. And it's really goofy. This loser main character who is just like, he starts the episode shit talking his friend on the phone because they're gonna go have like a card game night at the bar, and they're, you know, talking shit about their decks. And then he stumbles across a girl who got shot and kicked off a building, who is the female lead. And she basically follows him and goes, hey, because he also saves her from a guy. And she goes, you need to help us rescue my friend because we're supposed to be running in a squad of 3, but she got kidnapped. And we have to follow the rules by having 3 people. And I'm very stuck to the rules. So I'm going to recruit you. And it's interesting because, like, he makes a point of, like, if you have anything else you could be, being a brave is the worst thing you could do. Because it's basically just an assassin. Mm-hmm. And the school that they go to is essentially, he calls it a school for raising assassins. And he has some really complicated feelings about the entire thing, but he does eventually decide to help her out. And at the end of the episode, they take off to go fight the mafia, the local mafia. So that'll be fun. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is An Adventurer's Daily Grind at age 29, which is, it's got kind of that weird tonal thing where it's got a character with a lot of issues and like backstory to why he's a little bit of a dumbass, because he's basically been an orphan and had to make his own way through the world and really doesn't know social norms in a lot of ways, but he has made it to age 29. He basically says just like, I spent my entire life not knowing when I'd get to eat next, and then at some point I realized that I wasn't hungry anymore, because he'd found a place to be and help out in this small village with a dungeon that he hunts in. And then he discovers a small girl getting eaten by a slime because she snuck into the dungeon without permission, and rescues her, and she gets attached. And it's something. It's funny, it's cute, but also it's just like, there's this weird thin ice feeling I get while watching shows where it's just like, oh, this adult adopts this small child. And that's kind of bearing out, because one of the things that happens is he finally decides to adopt her-ish and teach her how to fight so she can be a useful adventurer. But when he wakes up in the morning afterwards, she is like full-size adult.
What?
And she's poking him like, hey, buddy. And then he goes, what the fuck is going on? And she shrinks back down. And he asks basically the guild receptionist to look into like what that could mean, because she's without parents, so she doesn't know her lineage. She doesn't know what race she might be, and she's one of the ancient races, I guess. And they finally discover what it is at the end of the episode. And she's a succubus who apparently turns into a full-grown adult at night. And I'm just like,
yeah, that's concerning.
That's a little concerning. And I'm just, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, it's not good.
This is, frankly, not the worst thing that it could have been, but it is pretty sketchy. And I am like coin toss on whether I'll keep up with this and see if they do anything interesting with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all the stuff I managed to watch. I don't know if I have it in me to try more because we have so many shows.
Yeah. Speaking of so many shows, executive editorial decision, we are going to call it there, and we'll do something separate to cover 800 words worth of my notes of older stuff that we've also watched over the last month. Anyway, so we're watching That Writers Project with Slimebug Productions. Intro and outro music is by me, graphics are by Val. You can find us on Blue Sky at slimebug.bsky.social, YouTube at youtube.com/slimebugproductions, Patreon at patreon.com/slimebugproductions. Download all episodes from Libsyn at slimebug.pro and join our Discord via the link in the description. Thanks for listening, and until next time, may anime neither betray nor disappoint you.